Your husband, are you sure he's been honest with you? These were the first words my gynecologist, Dr. Miriam, whispered to me while slowly removing her gloves. And in that moment, my entire world stopped. My name is Rachel, and for the last 7 years, I believed I was living the perfect life, a loving marriage, a warm home, and dreams of starting a family. My husband, Daniel, was charming, responsible, and always told me that one day we'd have the big family we both dreamed of. At least, that's what I thought. For the past year, I had been trying to get pregnant. Month after month, disappointment crushed my spirit. Every negative test felt like a personal failure. Everyone around me kept asking, "When will you two have a baby?" And I kept smiling, pretending everything was normal. But inside, I was breaking. Finally, after endless stress, I booked an appointment with Dr. Miriam, one of the city's most trusted gynecologists. I went in expecting routine advice, maybe some vitamins, maybe some tests. I never expected her to become the person who would uncover a secret deep enough to destroy a marriage. The appointment that changed everything. Dr. Miriam examined me with her usual gentle confidence, but as she asked questions, some small, some uncomfortable, I noticed her eyebrows knit closer and closer together. "Rachel," she said softly, "from everything I'm seeing, your body is perfectly capable of getting pregnant." I felt relief for a moment, but then she continued, "Are you sure your husband has been tested?" My heart jumped. Daniel had always avoided the topic. Whenever I mentioned testing, he would say, "It's unnecessary. You're just stressed. The problem isn't me." I repeated his words to her. She stared at me for a long moment, almost too long. Then Dr. Miriam sighed. "Rachel, I don't want to alarm you, but something is off, and not with you." Before I could ask anything, she stood up, walked to her desk, pulled out a folder, and placed a few documents in front of me. Paperwork, lab results, names. Names I recognized. Daniel's name, my husband's name. But the date was shocking. 2 years old. "Rachel," Dr. Miriam said slowly, "your husband came to me before, a long time before you believed you two started trying for a baby." I felt cold, confused, lost. "He told me," she continued, "that he did not want children. Ever. And he asked for permanent, irreversible options." My throat dried. "What do you mean?" She hesitated, but then answered, her voice firm. "Your husband secretly got a vasectomy before you even started trying." The world around me dissolved. The lights blurred. My heartbeats thundered in my ears. Daniel, my husband, the man who cried with me every month when we failed to conceive, he already knew the truth. He wasn't trying. He was pretending. All the pain, all the tears, all the guilt I carried, it was all built on a lie. The secret folder. Dr. Miriam pushed the folder toward me. "His records are confidential, but I need you to understand what's really happening so you don't blame yourself anymore." Inside the folder was proof. His medical reports, his signed consent, his follow-up visit dates, and worst, a personal note he wrote to the doctor. "Please do not tell my wife. She is not ready for the truth." My hands shook violently as I held that paper. Not ready for the truth? What truth? That my husband had no intention of ever giving me the family he promised? That for months he watched me suffer and said nothing? That for years he hid the single thing he knew mattered most to me? The world spun. I felt like I was drowning. "Rachel," Dr. Miriam whispered, placing a hand on my shoulder. "I'm truly sorry. You deserve to know." And with that, the first cracks in my marriage were carved deep and painfully into my heart. Because if he could lie about this, what else was he hiding? When I walked out of Dr. Miriam's clinic that day, the world looked different. People rushed past me, cars honked, but everything sounded distant, muted, unreal. Because my marriage, the one I thought was built on trust, was actually built on a lie. When I reached home, Daniel was in the kitchen, humming lightly as he cooked dinner like every evening. His normalcy made everything worse. "How was the appointment?" he asked without turning around. I stared at his back, the back of a man who had betrayed me so deeply that words couldn't describe it. "It was fine," I said quietly, watching him closely. He smiled. "Good. I told you, it's just stress. You worry too much." My blood boiled. He didn't worry. He didn't panic every month. He didn't cry in the bathroom when the pregnancy test was negative, because he already knew there was no chance. That night, I lay awake next to him, listening to the calm, guilt-free rhythm of his breathing, and wondered, who is this man? And why did he marry me if he never wanted a family? Suspicion grew. Over the next few days, I watched him more carefully. His phone always locked, his excuses always smooth, his absences always perfectly timed. Then something strange happened. One afternoon, when Daniel left for work, my neighbor knocked on my door and said something shocking. "Rachel, I just saw your husband at the cafe down the street. He wasn't alone. He was with a woman." A woman. My stomach twisted. I rushed to the cafe. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my hands. And then I saw him, laughing, smiling, relaxed, with a woman I'd never seen before. She touched his hand. He didn't pull away. I froze. My husband, the same man who said he didn't want children, was sitting with another woman, looking at her like she was the center of his universe. Who was she? And what did she know about him that I didn't? I stood outside the cafe, hidden behind a parked car, trying to swallow the truth rising like poison in my throat. Daniel wasn't unhappy. He wasn't stressed. He wasn't avoiding fatherhood because of trauma or fear. He was avoiding it because he was living a double life. The woman across the table laughed loudly, leaning closer to him. Daniel covered her hand gently and whispered something that made her blush. I felt something inside me break. That night, I didn't sleep. I didn't cry. I didn't confront him. I needed answers. Real answers. The next day, when he left again, I hired a private investigator. It felt dramatic, like a movie, but I needed the truth, every hidden piece of it. Within 48 hours, the investigator returned with photos, videos, and information that shook me to my core. Daniel had been seeing that woman for nearly 3 years. 3 years. Longer than we had been trying for a baby. He wasn't busy at work. He wasn't struggling financially. He wasn't avoiding family life because he wasn't ready. He was building a second life. Her name was Melissa. She worked in real estate. She was younger, energetic, and from the outside, she seemed harmless. But the biggest shock was still to come. In one photo the investigator showed me, Daniel was standing in a baby store, looking at cribs, baby clothes, toys, with Melissa by his side, and she was visibly pregnant. My vision blurred. The investigator's voice faded. My hands went numb. Daniel did want children, just not with me. I waited for him that evening, He walked in casually, kissed my cheek, and asked, "What's for dinner?" I didn't answer. I placed the folder from Dr. Miriam on the table, then the photos from the investigator, and finally, the ultrasound picture, the one he took with Melissa. His face drained of all color. "Rachel, I can explain." "No," I said calmly. "You can tell the truth." He stumbled, opened his mouth, closed it again, and finally whispered, "I never wanted you to know." "Why? Why her? Why lie to me?" He ran his hands through his hair, pacing. "Because I wanted a simple life with you. You're stable, kind, predictable. Melissa, she was just something exciting. I didn't think it would go this far." I laughed bitterly. "Vasectomy, Daniel? You chose to ruin my body emotionally and mentally, month after month, instead of telling the truth?" He sat down, defeated. "I thought you'd leave me if you knew. I didn't want that." "But you were already leaving me," I said quietly, "piece by piece." He looked at me with guilt. Not love, not regret. Guilt because he was finally caught. That night, I didn't scream, I didn't beg, I didn't collapse. I packed my things, and I walked out. For the first time in 7 years, I felt the weight lift off my chest. I moved into a small apartment across town. The silence was painful at first, but it was my silence, my peace. I began therapy. I focused on healing. I stopped blaming myself. And slowly, I started rebuilding. One day, a few months later, I got a call from Dr. Miriam. "Rachel, I thought you should know something." I took a deep breath. "Yes?" She sighed. "After reviewing Daniel's medical history again, I found out something important. His vasectomy was not successful. It failed." My heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" "Medically speaking," she said gently, "Daniel can have children. He lied to you, again." My knees went weak. So all this time, he wasn't avoiding children because he couldn't have them. He was avoiding children because he didn't want them with me. But life has a strange way of bringing justice. 2 months later, I received a message from Melissa, a long, crying paragraph. She wrote, "He left me. He said he wasn't ready for a baby. I thought he was a good man, but he lied to me too. Daniel had done to her exactly what he did to me. And at that moment, I realized something powerful. The problem was never me. The problem was him, a man who didn't know how to love honestly."